Welcome, everybody, to the Live Life Aware podcast. This is Episode 2, and this is a two-part series where we're going to be diving deep into the hot topic of medical cannabis in the state of Florida. Again, this is a two-part series, so what we want you to do is listen in and write down, get your pen and paper. This is going to be a master class on this. We've got the Florida's leading expert in consulting. So listen, write down this email. It's john@thefixtherapy.com if you have questions after this episode, so we can get them answered to you in the second part of this two-part series on medical cannabis. We have, like I said, we've cornered this man. We put him in the studio for the first time to answer your questions today and for the second part series. Welcome, Dr. Patel, Florida leading consultant in the industry of medical cannabis. Welcome to the show. Let everybody know about you and why you started specializing in this particular part of medicine.
Thank you, John, for having me here, introducing the Fix Therapy. We'll be actually doing some consultations inside of his clinic starting this month. But last January, the people voted for Amendment 2, and they got it. And, we were one of the first clinics in Brevard County to start it. I have two medical marijuana physicians that are certified, Dr. Ragsdale and Dr. Bellani.
Awesome.
And, Dr. Bellani works for a nonprofit organization, and he saw a need to help out people, and he's always willing to help out people. And he wanted my help to help him execute that. And there's a lot of patients that have chronic diseases, terminally ill, or they have cancer. And he was ready to help, and I was on board with him to make sure that we do it in a legal, compliant way. We don't want what happened in the opioid epidemic. We don't want that pill mill environment. We want clinics to do it the right way, and to make sure that we're certifying the correct people based on the current state law.
Wow. So, yeah, you just dived right deep into that part. So if you wanted to be, you're a doctor, an MD, and you wanted to do medical marijuana, I'm assuming they would have to go through a special test, or how's that work to kind of get your license to start taking in and approving the medical marijuana?
Right. So if you're a physician that's interested, the state has a 2-hour CME course, which you pay for, and they go over the legality of it. They don't dive down into the specifics. You have to get some CME credits. They have them in Orlando through the American Medical Marijuana Physicians Association. And they have over 20 CME credits where we go deeper into the pharmacology, et cetera, of medical cannabis and how you can implement it into your practice.
Wow. So there's if you're a consumer and wanted to, or a patient that thinks they need this, is there a list of these doctors? Is there a way to find out if your doctor can get on the list?
Mm-hmm. So the Office of Medical Marijuana Use, it's the Florida Department of Health. They have their own department now, and you can go there, and there's biweekly updates. You can search for the physicians that are already certified and where they're located.
Wow.
So they're all there, and if also for physicians that want to become certifying physicians, there's also information how to do that.
Wow. Yeah, so why don't you walk us through what it took and to get it legal here in Florida, and why are we making these big changes now, and how you see the industry kind of as it's, here in the state of Florida, it's very new, but it's not new to the nation, right? Where Colorado is different, California is different. There's quite a few states right now. And why didn't Florida why do you think, it started here this way? And what do you see in the future for medical cannabis?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Actually, it was a young congressman here in Florida. He was a Republican, actually, Matthew Gaetz, along with Roger Stone, and there was a young physician. So it was my generation of working together with Tallahassee to talk through that big brick wall, and that was very hard. And they had to come up with big business, unfortunately, and they're working on that to make it more horizontal versus vertical, which it is currently in the state of Florida.
Right.
I can dive deeper into that, but that's more business topic.
Right. Well, I think I think a lot of people are going to want to jump into this industry of the business side of it. But right now, if you were a patient and you wanted to get your card, what is the steps a patient may have to go through to even start this process to, and maybe even, maybe you can walk us through that, starting right off if they've never heard of it, don't know anything about it, never tried it, and what's the steps for something like that?
Right. So Amendment 2 was created, again, for chronic patients to improve quality of life. So patients that were dying, right, terminally ill, cancer, PTSD, Crohn's, epilepsy. These are all, chronic non-malignant pain. These are all conditions that have a story, and it's made their life difficult. And they've tried all these different modalities, and they want another option that will help improve their quality of life and their caregivers' quality of life. And so to define chronicity, you would need medical records from your physician or your specialist, etc., to prove chronicity from a legal standpoint. And sometimes we can argue for certain conditions that are outside of the 10 that were written in Amendment 2, which is called similar to, and the physician has to submit documentation within 14 business days to the Board of Medicine. And then that condition then can be argued for, and then the physician then can recommend it. So once all of this medical records, documentation, and application goes through, usually it takes 5 to 30 business days to get approved by the state. And usually there's a $75 filing fee with the state, which is once a year annually. And you're able to then go to these dispensaries, which are located all throughout the state of Florida.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So that's actually a pretty decent turnaround, and it seems pretty efficient.
Yeah, it's improved. When we started in January, it was very difficult for patients. They had a 90-day window period. Now our turnaround time, if you get lucky, is less than a week, which is fabulous for the patients.
Wow. And then it's just so let me get that right. So you have one of these conditions, or maybe you don't know you have you've medically you may have been prescribed or know you have some of these particular. I think we can even get a list of what have been approved. Correct.
You can go to the, again, Office of Medical Marijuana Use, and they have a list of the conditions that were approved. Florida started with 10. Same like Michigan. Michigan had 10 diagnoses. Now they've expanded to 22 diagnoses.
Right, I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, so other states, they start out with what they believe that the state wants to deal with, and then as, they intervene in the state, they'll add more diagnoses.
So when does it add? Does it add years? Do we have to vote for that? Is that just going to go, hey, now we're approved for these?
That's where we, the people, have to be active, and there's biweekly updates in the state. You go up to Tallahassee, you go to your local townhouses, and you discuss this. And it's they meet every quarter, right? We just had elections, so everything got halted right now. So whatever was on the docket currently isn't there. Right.
So then so in your town halls, you can say, well, I think this is something that should be prescribed through medical cannabis, and then there's a voting system for that. And that's where our states can go, okay, well, we're going to add 10 more to the list.
Well, they'll have a committee, and then that committee most likely is in Tallahassee, and then, the people will have suggestions for the recommendation. Again, it's a recommendation. It is not a prescription. There is a difference.
So that's a great point. That's something that we definitely need to be talking about.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a recommendation and a prescription?
So once you're approved, your application, the only people that don't have to go through that process if they're terminally ill, they do skip that, and you can go straight to dosing. But a recommendation is protected by the freedom of speech under the Constitution.
Nice.
A prescription is monitored by the DEA. A DEA is a federal entity. And so, again, federal entities are subjected to federal rules, and this is still federally illegal.
Right. So it's still a Schedule 1 drug.
Correct.
What is your... Okay, so it's a Schedule 1 drug, and I know there's some very hot topics around that. Do you ever see it getting down to a Schedule 2 or lower? Or I know even in the politics there's been a lot of question on that.
So our congressman has gotten up to D.C. or planning to go to D.C. for the Medical Marijuana Research Tax Act, and basically we have to do research to prove that it is worthy of pushing it either to a Schedule 2 or 3 or declassifying it completely. The only person that can declassify it completely is the President of the United States, which is Donald Trump.
Now, is he going to take from each state that's already legal, or does Tallahassee have to be its own representative and kind of try to get it down? Or we're going to take all the accumulated states of the country and be able to kind of use all those studies to get it off of a Schedule 1 and lower?
It's going to have to be a group effort. Yeah. The more research is always better in science and better for the people, right? You better product, better research. This plant needs to be studied more.
Right.
A lot of the medications that you use on a daily basis, people forget they were derived from plants or animals or et cetera. Aspirin, which people use every day, is derived from the bark of a tree. Metformin, which is the number 1 diabetes medication in this country, is derived from glucophage. Glucophage is from a plant.
Wow.
So we do have a lot of plant-derived medications that are out there. This is a new one. And so we have to do the same studies we did with those plants.
Right.
And how we extracted them with and do that with cannabis.
Right. So that's where maybe your consultant company comes in to educate doctors on how to do this. Because we've had a lot of questions of just what is CBD versus what THC, what's the combination. I think there's a lot of uneducated patients out there that don't know the difference in what's regulated, what's not regulated, where even the doctors may not know exactly the where to, the whole process. So that's where your consultant company can come in to make sure that this isn't like you said earlier, the Wild West of medical cannabis. So it's done correctly, and and going through this process is where because we've had, like I was saying earlier, we've had these patients come in and talk to us of maybe some horror stories that we've heard. So what is the standard of pay? What how many sessions or how many visits should a patient expect to do?
Well, I mean, that's a complex question in itself, because every patient is unique and different.
Absolutely.
And there's many physicians that are specialists, right? And specialists abide by different standards. And so those standards and protocols, they may see the patient more often, right, than a primary care doctor would. So in a patient with epilepsy or a patient with chronic pain, they may be seen more often than somebody that's dialed down their dosage quickly. If you've managed hypertension and you've gotten their blood pressure down quickly, then you only need to see them once a year. But there's people that they need a lot more hand-holding, or they have a lot more medications that there may be drug-to-drug interactions. And there are a lot of patients, you got to remember, in the state of Florida are elderly, and that have never tried cannabis. And so we have to do it in a safe manner, and we have to treat it just like any other medication. You go slow, start slow, and do it in a safe manner, because remember, these are your grandfathers and your grandmothers.
Absolutely.
And so we have to do it the right way, and we have to treat it like any other medication.
So like that's the beauty of it too, where you have a very, like you were saying, somebody who's never tried it, and so they get your recommendation, they file their $75 with the state, and then it takes, you said, which is, I didn't realize it was a 5 to 10 day turnaround with that. Now what do they do? They don't, you're kind of then, do you recommend them a certain type of breed, a hybrid, a stevia? Do they now take that to the dispensary, and then or does the dispensary go, is it, how do they know when they leave your office what to get?
That's the physician's job to educate the patient on the two different worlds that are out there.
Right.
The medical grade world, and then they're also going to be exposed to the strain worlds. And the strain worlds is kind of what you kind of dove into with the sativa, indica, and the hybrids.
Right.
And so it's our job to kind of educate them what products to avoid, what products to stay away from,
right.
which ones that will help, what the studies have shown that
right.
help for pain versus appetite versus,
sleep or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we do is there's the electronic portal system, which the state has created, which is the registry, and that's where we started your application, which has to be done in the doctor's office.
Right.
And once you get approved, the button pops up for ordering. Now we can press the order button, which we can put in two different we can put in low THC, which is CBD,
mm-hmm.
which is below the legal limit,
mm-hmm.
or you can put medical cannabis, which is above the 0.3% THC or more products, which you would test positive for in a urine drug screen.
Right.
And so the different routes that are available currently in the dispensaries are inhalation via vape, capsules, tinctures, creams, suppositories, and transdermal patches.
Wow.
Currently, there is no ground flower, and there's currently no edibles. Again, those are on the docket, and the House and Senate will meet again. Obviously, right now, it's all,
right.
because of elections. Right now, nothing is
right. It's not on the docket, right?
Yep.
So, and then, wow, that's a lot. So they go into the dispensary. You're now, like you said, the button pops up. You're going to go for this particular patient at this particular time
mm-hmm.
in their, their weight of health. They go to now they can even have it ordered to them, right? They don't have to actually go to a dispensary. They can take your recommendation, yes. and then have it actually go online, read mm-hmm. every strand, mm-hmm. what you recommend, and then they can just order it to their doorstep.
Correct. So all the dispensaries in the state of Florida, you can go to their location, right? Mm-hmm. 2, you can call them. Mm-hmm. 3, you can go online and walk through. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do get it delivered to your house, you have to be present with your card.
Right.
You have to be the person touching the product
right.
at all times.
ID and right.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, there's the X. I guess I'll sign right here.
Stop! Did you even read it?
No, I usually don't.
How many pages is that?
Like 20?
You could be giving away your firstborn son in that contract.
That's a pretty good point. I don't want to do that.
Or that's a lease, right? You could be giving your landlord rights to have their Fat Uncle Joe come and use your coffee maker whenever they want.
Uncle Joe's fine, but not Fat Uncle Joe.
Yeah, not that one.
Well, this is a lot of legal information. I don't really know it. Who could I go for this?
Well, that's exactly why we have Blake Stewart at Stewart Law. He specializes in business, contracts, and construction law, and he has negotiated low prices for contract reviews, just for cases like this. Check him out on Facebook, Stewart Law CS.
Or on the web at stewartlawcs.com.
Or give me a call at 321-541-6845. Hey, make sure you check out Space Cowboy Justice with your hosts, Blake Stewart and Paul Daly. We're going to be talking about interesting legal issues in the entertainment industry and everything geek. If you're into Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, comic books, we're talking about it. Coming at you from the Space Coast Podcast Studios.
You're listening to the Space Coast Podcast Network. If you'd like to be featured as a guest or sponsor or even host your own show, please email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. That is spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Live Life Aware podcast. I'm your host, John Adams, and we have our special guest here, Dr. Patel. We're diving deep into the medical cannabis. Welcome.
Thank you, John, again.
Yes. So, to just get back into this, now we have we can order CBD almost everywhere now. So, is that a route that most people should be taking? What's the difference from CBD to medical cannabis?
So let me first start out with the federal definition of the cannabis plant in any part of it, meaning the flower, the stalk, the stem, the seed, is federally illegal. Therefore, hemp is federally illegal. There are no rules on it currently. There is a farm bill that is almost passed, basically, that will exclude hemp. The plant,
right?
That particular plant from it, because it is industrial plant, and that industrial plant is used for clothing, textile, paper mill.
Almost like a plastic, food. I mean, there's pretty much anything.
There's so many applications to it, and so you can extract. Let me use the right word. Extraction of CBD through the hemp can be done at the flower level. It can be done at the stalk, and it can be done at the seed. However, there's a lot of companies that out there, they just use the word CBD hemp. And there's a difference when you extract it from the flower versus the stalk versus the seed.
Wow.
So you get a lot of snake oil out there.
Right.
And you also don't know what it's extracted with. And remember, when you have CBD hemp, it has to fall below the legal limit of THC also. So if you have somebody that's cutting your CBD hemp with something else and you have THC in it and you test positive for urine drug screen, now your employer could be subject to risk. Right.
And you're not putting yourself at risk.
Yeah, we have seen that before with some of the products that are out there. So whenever you're looking for CBD hemp, make sure that it's a quality product from a quality company. There are lots of companies out there, and they will show you their specs.
Mm-hmm.
They do in-house lab testing and third-party testing.
Mm-hmm.
So currently in Florida, you cannot grow hemp. So it is whatever you do see out there is technically illegal. It's there. It is what it is. But
right.
you will see it.
Wow.
Yeah. Because remember, it's a federal definition.
Right. So that's always that up and down.
Yeah.
This whole federal, and
like I said, it's the wild, wild west.
Right.
So you can do it.
Right, you can do it. You can get it. Now,
you
get depending? Let's say you did your research and you got I've got a reputable company. They're using a certain type of press, or they're using the seed versus the stem. Will they be getting similar benefits? Will it help with the label saying, "Oh, this will help with sleep, and this one helps with food, or whatever"?
Right. Those claims are those claims, but CBD, if it's good quality CBD, and your body has a natural homeostasis with your endocannabinoid system,
right,
and you're not deficient in that system, you have the potential of CBD hemp working for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you get variations of some people saying, oh, it worked for me, it didn't work for me, because if you have a chronic condition or a condition that has a deficiency in your endocannabinoid system, then you may need a product where you need the parents, the mothers, which are your sativa and indica,
right,
that created the baby hemp.
Right.
And so the mother is more medical than the baby hemp.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. That is some intense, and that's why I think it's best right now for people to actually consult with a doctor, to go that route. So you can ask these questions on a one-to-one basis and go through this is what I'm going through. I have this extreme anxiety. I've been seen for it. I've been treated for it. Or I'm going through some type of depression or whatever the case is, and go that route.
And also, if you don't qualify for one of the conditions, go ahead and try, it's a good quality CBD hemp product, that's out there.
Right.
Okay. And so that's another thing that, because right now we can't, the dispensaries, there's only one actually that does it, Vitacan, and they have Charlotte's Web, and they have CBD hemp there actually. But a lot of these dispensaries don't carry the over-the-counter CBD hemp products, so it's very difficult to find, because you can find them in a gas station, or you can find it you know, you can put your face on it if you want to and call it what you want.
Right. Now, so let's say, like you said, Wild Wild West, could it harm me if I'm getting some kind of, you know, like snake oil or some non-regulated CBD? Is it something that if I just believe it's something I'm going for, would it do an adverse effect?
CBD hemp extracted properly has a good safety profile. However, if you don't know what it's cut with and you don't know what the other ingredients are and you're allergic to those, that I can't, you know, promise what's going to happen to you in those situations, right? Or if they are cut with something and you test positive, and you're, you know, at that point you got something that you didn't want,
right? And
now you're, you know, you could risk your job.
Now, is there, anytime you get medical cannabis, are you going to be getting high? Are you going to be, you know, in this high state? And is that something that, you know, is there, because I know there's a lot of questions of that where, well, you know, I don't want to have to smoke this. I don't want to, you know, because you said there's all kinds of different ways of, you know, getting CBD or medical cannabis into the body without just having to smoke and inhale.
Right.
Do you always have to, you know, in the medical side, are you getting high in a way?
No. So it's all about safety and therapeutic response. So we teach you how to use the product in a safe manner that you can function, because the goal is to get quality of life.
Right.
So we show you the products that are in the dispensaries that allow you to function and have relief and a good quality of life.
Right.
And so that's what the physician's job is, to educate you. And there's daytime products and nighttime products.
Right. There you go. Right. Perfect. You know, so I mean, it's pretty amazing that we have gone this into this new industry. What will happen if it becomes recreational for, you know, Florida residents, and then will they continue to have a medical base with it? Or will, like, what happened, you know, and I maybe haven't been doing my research, but difference between Florida and Colorado, Florida and in LA, where I think it is recreational, is there still a medical, you know, sound, you know, for people?
So California is a good example. They've been doing medical marijuana for a long time. And so when they went recreational, if you looked at the number of patients that stayed on the medical side, was over 300,000.
Wow.
So that tells you that there's a market for both. And I believe that both worlds should be split. Physicians are not gatekeepers. We're not Passport here. We're not pill mills. That's why I believe that they quickly need to separate the two worlds.
Right.
Medical's medical, recreational's recreational. We have nothing to do with one or the other.
Right.
And let us do the research, and let us take care of the patients that really need it, don't want to get high, and that want to use it in the right manner.
Right. And I think that's really awesome to hear that you're an advocate of something like that. That's powerful.
If I may interject.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jesse.
I've been trying to get on here. I mean, you guys have been rocking and rolling with some good questions and answers, going back and forth. One of the recurring things that I keep on hearing is this list of application, right? So before it was like, you know, epilepsy maybe, or maybe it was cancer, you know, increasing appetite, decreasing pain. Can you just give the audience a little bit more about where Florida lies as far as who is allowed, who should come see you right away? Like if you have these. So
that's where Amendment 2, when it was created last January, were those 10 conditions.
Right.
And so those were, if you're terminally ill and dying, Parkinson's, MS, cancer, PTSD, epilepsy, glaucoma, and Crohn's. These are, and HIV/AIDS. These are the conditions that were written by the lawyers. However, there was a gray area called similar to one of the conditions. So, for an example, if you had Crohn's, obviously a similar pathology is ulcerative colitis. Right. It's brother and sister. So why is that one not on there? So you could submit supporting documentation to the state within 14 business days, and then they will approve that condition. Florida only has 10.
Right.
Michigan had 10 originally, and now they expanded to 22, I was saying.
And you mentioned that. So you have to be diagnosed with a pathology.
Correct.
Yeah.
You do.
But you wouldn't recommend somebody just with like a headache to come see you.
No.
Okay.
No. They have, again, the current law is more chronicity and a doctor-patient relationship if you read the bill.
Okay.
And so that relationship that has to prove, they have to then dig deep into, okay, you've tried all these different modalities, MRI, X-ray, you've tried all these medications and it's failed. You tried the gabapentins, the Lyricas, the Xanaxes, and the benzos, and all the opioids.
Sure.
Okay, now we can try medical cannabis to get you off of them, or we try something else because everything's failed. However, as legislation becomes more lax and these other diagnoses will open back up, there are physicians that will take the risk and certify people outside of the 10. But I believe in playing the game the right way, and then eventually people that want it for other medical reasons that are less chronic and less severe will have their opportunity. But currently, the person that has cancer deserves it first, and that's why it was made.
Right.
The person that's
Absolutely.
dying.
And I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, especially if you're terminally ill.
Yeah.
How could you regulate somebody's diet or what they take as far as pain relief? Let them enjoy it. If it's an edible, if they choose to smoke it, they're counting down their last days.
Right.
Like, I mean, we should be very sympathetic, and I think that's where it started was with sympathy, letting people who really are desperate for an alternative to medication, because medication gets very expensive. You could grow your own marijuana essentially. I mean, not legally, I guess, here in Florida just yet, but I know some people who do, and they were granted federal allowance to have so many plants just for their condition. Again, it's not many. There are only a couple cases that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, helping people, and I think this is a where we're remiss right now. If we, and this is personal because somebody I don't know had just gone through it, with the getting people off the opioids. I think we're in a crisis right now.
Oh yeah.
And I know our current administration at the federal level has realized that they're doing what they need to do. As far as making it public and more of it a priority, so what I guess what I'm getting at, when can we expect hopefully the legislature here in Florida to get on board with helping people get off the opioid and that chronic abuse of opioids with medical marijuana? Is that something that's...
Yeah, I mean, it's being addressed,
Yeah.
but in a different way right now. Obviously not with medical cannabis. There's going to be a $1 billion funding federally, and then these states are going to get state fundings. But that's a whole different topic of
Right.
how there's going to be clinics out there that they're going to help, which will have psychotherapy, counseling, AA meetings, all these different modalities.
Right.
But when it comes to medical cannabis, it'll play a role in it. But it won't be in harmony because it's still federally illegal. So it does play a role, but we're not part of the team yet.
Of course. Now, and I don't mean to take away from John. I know John has a lot of questions too.
No, you're good. You're good.
Is it maybe something that you may see yourself be able to, or doctors in your position, physicians in your position, have those like weaning off clinics? Like, is that something that you could see yourself as like having a practice at a rehab institute or something where people are coming in abusing opioids, and now you're part of that clinic, that rehabilitation effort?
Mm-hmm. There were some studies that showed cannabis is a great bridge, and it showed that it decreases the usage of opioids. Whether or not clinics are going to be doing that again,
Sure.
that detox center has to go through ACA, which is the Agency of Healthcare Administration, and so again, it's going to be a little tricky because of legality. You can't just open up these special type of clinics, just like a pain management clinic or a detox clinic. So right now, I'd say it's pretty difficult to do. The individual provider that's certified, he may take that risk in his clinic to help out patients at his discretion.
Right, because I know in rehab, again, from experience, not personal experience as myself personally, but someone very close to me and my family, they had gone through the detox a number of times, and they were given these like very expensive pills, which had there not been like some kind of Medicaid or somewhere that they could afford this, then they would have never got these. And these are like opioid blockers. So I know there's right now help with helping them, and before they were using like these codone clinics, methadone, yeah, I'm sorry, clinics where you could come, but it's another pill, and it's all like opioid based, and then now there's the opioid blockers, which really helped this person get sober and get back and get in a healthy state. But again, if had there not been a insurance provided or something else, it's a very, very costly mechanism. And what we're seeing with at least CBD and even medical marijuana, especially in other states, it's quite affordable. You can replace 50 pills with I don't know, maybe like however they measure it now, essentially maybe like an eighth of an ounce or a quarter of an ounce of product from a medical marijuana store.
Dispensary.
Dispensary. And now you can get rid of that costly prescription. So I'm just, I'm an advocate for people to get health care that's not going to, they don't have to sell their home and go homeless to get help.
If I can intervene there, like, the goal is, and what we've been talking about too, is like, and Dr. Patel said even just a few minutes ago, is, well, you've got to show that you went this route, that route, this route. You've gone through all of this, and now we're going to give you medical marijuana.
Right.
Well, when is it going to be where I want that first? I would rather try that versus I don't want to go all those other routes and deal with all the side effects of medications. I mean, if you ever listen to any of those different commercials, I wouldn't go near those.
Right.
Why is it that we have to jump through hoops and show that when we could just, I'd rather go there first?
It's been illegal for 100 years, and it's
Right.
been pushed into Schedule 1.
Right, and I know,
so
I think that,
yeah.
but I think that's, if we can go that route and prove with science, prove with studies, and do it the correct way here in Florida, which is why I think this is a consultant company, and getting people more educated
Right.
on the benefits of it, then we will allow that kind of route. I'd much rather see somebody take medical marijuana as a beginner of dealing with some issues mentally, physically, whatever, than having to go backwards.
Yes.
We're taking, I just saw a really neat document on this, that if you were to compare the technology world and how much it's went from, when the first
Right.
flat screen TV came out, it was like $2,100.
Right.
Now I can buy a 55-inch for like $128. Right.
Black Friday, yep.
So like,
Yeah.
if I'm, take that
Right.
into how technology has gone from super, super expensive to affordable. We have done the exact opposite in our medical field, where how come we're not getting to the point of being able, and I'm probably opening a can of worms here, but that's what this
good at that,
podcast's
John.
about, is live life aware. And why aren't we in that kind of process where medicine is getting more expensive versus less expensive, where we're kind of going the opposite direction than every other industry out there.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. How come I have to go see a general practitioner to get a script or get a permission slip or
For a
recommendation to go see Dr. Patel, where I want this doctor.
I'd rather have that.
I want Dr. Patel to be my primary care physician.
Right, exactly. So maybe you can shine a light on that.
Yeah. Well, let's head to break. Listeners, don't go anywhere. We're going to come back with more of this after just a few of our sponsors who help make this show happen. Stay tuned.
Jesse. Have you ever wondered, what is the best way to interview applicants for your open position so you have the best chance of hiring a keeper?
All the time.
Well, I talk to managers every day, Jesse, that use their gut instinct to make a hire. Sometimes that works out, but more times than not, it can lead to a bad hire. Replacing a poor hire can be expensive and hurt morale. One of our most popular service offerings at HR Office Savers is teaching employers how to be better interviewers. Improved interviewing techniques lead to better hiring, which leads to better employee retention, which leads to less turnover and more profit. Contact me today to find out how you can learn to be a better interviewer. I can be reached online at www.hrofficesavers.com or by phone 928-308-4506. Again, that's 928-308-4506. 928-308-4506.
A lot of people want to know what the paper clinic is. And honestly, the paper clinic is a lot of things. It's a collaborative space where you can come and bounce ideas off other professionals. You can get advice from professionals in the field. You can get legal advice, insurance advice, and you can be the expert. You can advise people as to things that you know about. But the paper clinic's a lot more than that. When the paper clinic works together, it becomes a one-stop shop for anybody who wants to start a business. You can walk right in one door of the paper clinic, and you can get your business formed, you can get your business insured, you can get a tax plan, you can get marketing, and you can walk right out the other side of the paper clinic with a turnkey business. The Paper Clinic. Big firm resources for the small business. Check us out on the web, thepaperclinic.com, or on Facebook at The Paper Clinic.
This is your jam, John.
Yeah, I like this.
I know you did. You picked it out.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Live Life Aware podcast. We're hosted here in the Paper Clinic with our amazing producer here, Jesse. Thank you so much for offering this platform for us to share this information. We have our guest, leading expert here in medical cannabis, Dr. Patel. We led off there that break where, I think we were talking about, Jesse and I were kind of go back and forth, and you didn't get to kind of jump in there on when do we think that it will, we were kind of talking even through the break on you can't just walk in there and get a drug. It has to be prescribed to you. Mm-hmm. So when will the doctors be able to have this in their arsenal to go, here, we'll go this route first, versus, kind of jumping through, we need to see you actually have this problem and go through this and then go through that. And now we can go on to medical marijuana where maybe it should be that first option.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's a recommendation, not a prescription. So
right.
Amendment 2, when it was created, it said patient-doctor relationship and for these chronic conditions. And so when you have a chronic condition, you're going from one drug to another drug, right? And so we're adding on another medication based on the risk and benefits. So the reason why he chose this was because all these other modalities failed. And so then therefore he's saying that based on the current research and studies that this is the best route to go to. Obviously, he's going to give other options too. Physician's job is to decrease mortality and morbidity and make sure that there's still therapeutic benefit. And so it's the physician's job to educate the patient on all the options.
Right.
This is one of the options. That doesn't mean that they have to go this route.
Right.
The medical cannabis is another option of many other drugs, just like gabapentin, Lyrica, etc. So we don't look at it as a cure. We look at it as another option. Mm-hmm. And only those physicians under the law were able to write for it, right? So the physician has to be certified to be able to recommend.
Right, so not any physician
there's
can
so much
order that.
red tape.
Right.
The day that you don't need the physician is the day it's recreational.
Right.
because you can't go into a clinic and ask for 210 days worth of oxy.
Right.
You will not find one clinic in this world that will do that.
Right.
So there's
that's
no
a misconception.
and the same thing with antibiotics or any other medication. The physician has to evaluate you. That's what a physician the rule says. A doctor-patient relationship.
Right.
So a doctor's job is to take a good history, do a physical examination, and then come up with the diagnoses, and then look at your medical history, and then give you these options.
Right.
And then weigh the risk and benefits, and will it, is it good for your long term? Is it not good? And after he's made these assessments, then he's like, okay, I believe that it is a good recommendation. Do you wish to proceed with this recommendation?
Mm-hmm.
So, but ultimately, it's still up to the patient whether or not they want to do it. But the physician's job is to give them all the options,
right,
and
exactly.
pros and cons.
Right.
But he's not there to force the cannabis on you.
Right. So if you're not a physician that's been registered with the state for medical marijuana, that's not even going to be on the table.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
No. Even though so why wouldn't a physician want to have that option as well? Is that just research? Is it just a choice?
So a lot of physicians, because of all the red tape, they've
Right.
been to school for a really long time, and
Yeah.
that license is worth a lot to them.
Yes.
And they're not going to take that risk for their license when they're running a good practice already.
Right.
And so there are a lot of physicians that, they're willing to take that risk, or they believe in the cause, and they're the ones that are ready to play the rules that Amendment 2 created.
Right. Awesome. Man, thank you for lighting that up.
Mm-hmm.
Or enlightening that up.
Yeah.
So I know there's a hot topic too and a big question that we get a lot on this concealed carry weapons, and this because it's still federal, it's still against the law to have it. So if you can kind of even answer that question, like, okay, I'm registered with the state of Florida. I have it for a recommendation because it's not a prescription. It's now a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Can I carry a weapon on me if I'm licensed with a concealed carry? Do they conflict with each other? Can I go to Georgia? Is it just a Florida thing? Mm-hmm. If maybe you can answer that question for us.
Yeah, so we went to the American Medical Marijuana Physicians Association's annual meeting this year, and there was a lawyer there, and she broke it down, and she plain said, no, you cannot have a concealed carry permit and a medical marijuana card.
Right.
Kind of makes sense from a federal standpoint based on if you looked at the application, there are some federal questionnaires that are on there that pertain to it, and therefore federally illegal.
Right.
Remember, this is a state product, so it stays within the state of Florida. It does not. You can't carry your weed that you get off the street and hold your card, and that'll protect you from that product. It's only the product that you buy it in a licensed dispensary. That is the product that it will protect you from.
Right. So then that's
Gotcha.
a great point, because I've got a card for this stuff.
No.
Well, no, that doesn't count. You've got to go to that's why they put these laws and regulations, and why your consultant company is educating us right now that yes, it's so much smarter to have your card if this is something that that you need medically right now. Hopefully, as it's done right, and we don't break it, and we don't kind of find those little gray areas in this loopholes in the medical marijuana community where we play by the rules, we'll get more down the road, more diagnoses, maybe even become recreational. But let's not ruin it for everybody here. In the future, this is something that probably will become that way, as long as we're playing by the rules in the beginning here.
We're moving in that direction. Is just being patient. You didn't have it for 100 years. We can wait another 3 years.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's awesome. Jesse, do you have any other questions here? I'm kind of figuring. I think we've answered quite a bit right now. I'm hoping you guys listening right now to have some, I know we've kind of opened this can of worms of medical marijuana. I know there's probably a ton more questions out there.
Yeah, remind them how they can submit some questions.
We have the livelifeawarepodcast.com, where you can go there. You'll probably be able to catch the playback on this particular episode will be on there. There's a contact page on there. But right now, I think the one I'm going to be checking is John JOHN at thefixtherapy.com. That's my personal email until this Live Life Aware podcast, the Facebook page, everything kind of gets up and running.
Sure.
We do have a page, but it's kind of
it's growing. Go like it.
Yeah, like it. Ask questions in there.
Yeah.
So there's ways of just finding out. So,
but you're gonna monitor your email. So we will revisit this again because again, I know we've been going across all kinds of different. And that's what's so fascinating with this topic.
Oh, yeah.
It's so multifaceted. It's not just very direct. You go see a doctor, you go get a script. No, you got to go
it's not even a script. You got to get a recommendation.
Right, recommendation, right. I mean, so even the nomenclature, even the vernacular is, we're all learning here today what a THC or a CBD is for some people, what a care clinic or a dispensary is, or, and all. So, again, it's a whole nother facet of where to go, how do you go, what do you ask for, what do you bring, what should you prepare. It's a whole new experience.
Yeah.
And it's not just walking a grocery store or your local pharmacy. This is something that's a whole new complex with laws and even like maybe even some ethic, as far as to what to go in there and ask for and to expect and so forth. So it's almost like a whole new culture. Luckily for us, there are other states who have successfully gone from medical marijuana to then maybe a decriminalization, and then finally to the last step, which is recreation, right? Mm-hmm. So we're not the first one out there. There's lots of case studies out there for other states. Yeah. There's a lot of other states have been super successful with helping everybody from their cancer patients to their kids with epilepsy and patients that suffer from seizures to increasing appetite, to decreasing pain, decreasing anxiety. And the one thing that you guys came up with, we have to go through this physician patient kind of dialogue, but it starts with the general practitioner who, guess what? Man, I'm feeling bad. I can't focus. I just feel like I want to sleep all day. Well, here's some Xanax, and it's only until maybe you have a bad reaction to Xanax. They're like, well, maybe medical marijuana is good for you. And I feel for you, John. I want it reversed. Give me something that is not going to mess me up and have all these side effects. Because when you listen to these commercials, here's a pill, it'll help you relieve your irritable bowel syndrome, but don't take it with XX, XYZ, KLNOP.
Don't take it if you have an infection.
It may cause bleeding in your ulcer, and you may just die.
Right.
And all these side effects that we're assuming now to just satisfy one little symptom, where we could have a plant that has the only side effect is you get hungry and sleepy.
Well,
kind
yes,
of thing.
Yeah. So that's where we're got a Dr. Patel here to consult with us. These, how important it is to stay the track here. Like you said, it's been 100 years since we. So just use the system way it's supposed to be used, and then that way we can then make it grow here in the state of Florida. We can use it legally.
Get professional.
It's not the Wild West. Let's don't get stuff that you're not regulated. I think that's the most important thing we can get across here is that there is a system in place.
Yeah, the black market's not your friend.
No, you have no idea. Just like we touched base on the regular CBD, that's so it's in abundance everywhere. But again, unless it's medically sound, then it's not regulated. There are great companies out there, and do your research, deep dive into those researches of what's good. And I'm sure Dr. Patel can help answer what's good, what you should be looking for, what type of compress, how it's processed, where it's processed at. He's the expert on this.
Right.
Dr. Patel, let the listeners know too, and how they can get a hold of you directly, and when can they, how quickly they can get into in front of you to get this recommendation, and in 10 to 5 days start using the product, have it delivered to your house, or walk into a dispensary and get all your questions answered.
Gotcha. So you can find us at healthyoptionsconsulting.com. If you want one of our clinics, it's an ounceofwellness.com, and one of our locations again is within the Fix. And we're going to be starting to book this month. We have 2 medical marijuana physicians, again, Dr. Ragsdale and Dr. Balani. We do have one more physician that's training, so we should have around 3 physicians that do the certifications, and you'll be seeing one of them.
Awesome. So how long would that first visit be? So they have maybe some paperwork to fill out.
Yeah, so I always tell people, be patient with any doctor, regardless it's us or anybody. This is a process. This is a political, bureaucratical, red tape process.
Right.
There is paperwork, and there's lots of paperwork, and because it's the government. And so once it's all processed, then things will move faster. But the first visit tends to be longer, regardless of which clinic you go to, one of ours or any of them. It is what it is.
Right. And then next time, so they get their, I mean, we're just going to kind of, touch base on, I know you probably answer this question, but just quickly. So they come in for that first visit. It's a little longer, a little more intense. Then they leave. They register online, $75. They finish their recommend. You kind of submit your thing. They submit the rest of their stuff. 5 to 10 days. They get their card.
At worst, 30 business days. Because if you do the paper application, it will take longer. If you send a check in versus pay credit or debit,
right.
It will take longer to get your card.
And it's getting more streamlined, I hear.
It is. You will also get your actual card, which looks like a driver's license. It does take longer than your actual approval. You'll get your approval in your email a lot faster.
Right, and you can use that approval without having to have the physical card.
Yep, and that gives us the green light to put in your dosing.
Right.
And that's where we can put in the milligrams of low THC in medical cannabis, and then the appropriate routes that we believe are going to benefit you.
Right. Now, and then you get to kind of, you have recommended dispensaries, or you get to pick the 3 or 4 different dispensaries that are out there?
I had a question regarding that, too. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in state of Florida, originally 7 licenses were given, and that was we had Knox, Trulieve, then we had Liberty Health, we have Sutera Wellness, we have VitaCan, we have Curaleaf, and then we have one more that's coming out there. And there's other ones that are still in the initial process, so they're not up and running currently. But these are your big ones. You can go to any dispensary in the state of Florida. It is not like where we send it to CVS, that particular location, and you have to go to it.
Right.
But we do recommend sticking to one dispensary before switching to another because, again, this is not it's not standardized completely because an antibiotic is an antibiotic anywhere in the world.
Right.
When these farmers are growing the plant, there's a lot of variables, and to grow consistently cannabis strain, it's to clone it is very difficult.
So you may have one dispensary that's a little different than another dispensary on their potencies or how their harvest, but they do go through each one of these. 7 dispensaries are regulated.
Yes, they are regulated. They have to do in-house testing and third-party testing, batch testing. And you can also find their specs. Some of them have QR barcode scanners, and you can see exactly what's in it.
Wow.
They will all show. Some of them will give you tours of their farms. You can go and see their farms.
Wow. That's
so,
awesome. I may want to go do that. That sounds fun.
So they want to show the people that this is something legit, and that they want to show them that they're doing it the right way.
So so I have it my dispensary. So now I have my recommendation of however many units or ounces or whatever
milligrams, not ounces.
So once that runs out, do I call? Do I have to make another appointment? Do I?
So again, that's up to the physician and the physician's policies and procedure of his clinic. I can't speak on behalf of a psychiatry office or a pain management clinic that is a board-certified anesthesiologist or a board-certified neurologist versus a primary care.
Right.
Because
so they're all going to be a little different.
They're all going to be different because they're regulated by different bodies of organization. Physicians are all regulated by the Department of Health, but when you become specialized, not only are you regulated by the Department of Health, but you're also regulated by your body of organization. So if you're a neurologist, then you have neurology standards.
Right.
If you're a cancer doctor, you have the American Board of Cancer.
Right.
So all these specialties, we cannot speak on their behalf.
Right. Okay. So let's say they just take your route, and their prescription runs out. Do they have to renew it every 30 days, 90 days. It has to be, let's say you're a patient. Do they have to come see you? Do you do it over a Skype interview?
So in Florida, it is illegal to do telemedicine.
Okay, awesome.
It is there's a one sentence period.
Can't do it.
Nope.
Don't do it.
Yeah. If they're doing it, it's illegal. Yeah.
So I have a question regarding this. Okay, let's hypothetically say someone comes in and moves into the state of Florida, but they come from a friendly state like Colorado. They get their medical card. They passed it. They understand, whether maybe they're terminally ill. Can they get something across state lines? Like, can they mail order from their favorite dispensary in Colorado to Florida yet?
No. So when you're certified in Florida, you're
Right.
certified in Florida, and you
Right.
can only buy Florida product.
So there's no reciprocation yet.
The only thing that has reciprocity is a card.
Okay.
The card in Florida can be used in states that allow for reciprocity. Florida,
Gotcha.
however, does not allow reciprocities of other states. So
That's so bad. Okay.
So if you are in California or
Right.
Colorado or Washington or Massachusetts and you have a card, we don't care. You
Right.
have to redo the process in the
Okay.
state of Florida. We do not have reciprocity.
Right.
But you can take our card to other states.
to other friendly states, right?
And the other thing is that a plane is federal property. The people that are putting it on planes or delivering it or delivering it on state lines, that's federal property. They are taking a risk.
Right.
Doesn't mean that what they're doing is right. They're just taking a risk. Remember, if their plane it's subjected to seizure, right? At that point.
That's crazy.
So at the dispensary, now is that dispensary only growing in Florida, or is that like they're growing in Colorado or?
No. So when Florida created the rule for dispensaries, they created what they called a vertical license. A vertical license in business is basically you have the ability to go from seed to retail. You control the whole chain. So this is a big business.
Right.
So that means you have the farm,
Right.
you have the manufacturing, and then you own all the retail.
Wow.
So that's why it's expensive in Florida to start. It is a big boys game.
Right.
And the product is going to be more expensive.
Hence the lobbying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was going to get into a question I completely forgot. Just lost my mind, my train of thought right
I
there.
know. We just went on another exciting tangent with what's going on. Go ahead.
So I think it's so. From what I know of the dispensaries, they
Right.
are all cash based.
Are they?
Yes.
Insurance isn't paying for it, right?
No, and this is not in an no, I don't believe so.
So,
unless maybe you have
That-
one of the because it's a recommendation, so it's all cash based.
well, there's a reason by that because if you want to ever own an insurance company, you can't just go and make your own insurance company. You have to get the blessings of Medicare.
Right.
Medicare is a federal entity.
Right, so there you go.
And therefore, no insurance. Currently, there is no reimbursable code for it.
Right.
Also, because when you do a super bill in the medical world, there's no CPT code or ICD-10 code. Also,
Right. And you know what's fascinating is when Colorado, who was the first to go like recreation, all the banks are insured FDIC, federal insured banks.
Correct.
So they couldn't accept this cash that was coming through these
Right, because it's illegal
dispensaries.
cash.
So you have all these like hordes of cash in Colorado that cannot be deposited or played in banks. So I think there was and I think they figured it out, because all these dispensaries, they were getting tons of cash all of a sudden,
Right.
And it was a big liability. Like, what do I do with this cash? So do I launder it or what? So what happened is, and I think there's like a couple of, of course, with necessity and demand, comes a solution, right? So there's I think some credit unions or something to that effect, which are like privately owned, not really FDIC insured or something.
yes. So they have high-risk banks.
High-risk banks, right.
So high-risk merchant processors, high-risk banks. So in Florida also, none of these, it's cash only because,
Right.
again, everything's backed by the FDIC.
Right.
So either you have to have an offshore account
Oh, geez.
or you have to put it into...
So you take
you feel like a
huge
drug
ri-
dealer.
Yeah,
You
you're
feel like a
taking
drug dealer.
huge risk if you're owning.
And
If you got to put all like he said, it's a big boy game to get involved with this.
And also there's...
then you got to find an offshore
And,
company.
and then if they're making all this cash and they have nowhere to put it, like, what do you do?
wow, that's a whole new topic.
All right,
that we're kind of going way off a tangent. Maybe that's a part 2.
Yeah,
but
that's an episode 3 even, Episode 4, maybe we'll take a tour, take this podcast mobile to a facility.
I know Dr. Patel's got to get out of here
Yes,
soon.
yes.
We're going to wrap up here, and please feel free to email. Check out all of our different social media, the Facebook, Live Life Aware Podcast, the Live Life Aware Podcast.com. email me, john@thefixtherapy.com, so we can get any questions that we did not answer here. We can get them answered in our second episode here, which will probably be in a couple weeks, maybe in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a Christmas show.
Yeah, whenever we can get free up some time here. So.
That's right. So with that, Live Life Aware, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And make sure if you're listening to iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast solution, just give us a like, give us a subscribe, and that way you don't have to come searching for us. You'll be notified as soon as we upload another episode. Live Life Aware. John, Doctor, thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.